Hello guys, I'm JP Drekmeijer for Time Traveler's Guide. Today I would like you to join me as I travel back in time 33 years to 1986, the 26th of April, to a town called Pripyat in the northeastern Ukraine. At this stage the town was still part of the Soviet Union. This town turned into a ghost town. Well, I can say more like a city because it's close to 50,000 people that lived here. It's 49,000 if I'm not mistaken. This town was deserted literally overnight, and I'm going to explain to you what occurred here. Pripyat is close to Chernobyl nuclear power plant, which consisted of 4 active nuclear units at this stage, and 2 was actually still in the process of being built. They're only ever used for obvious reasons. Okay guys, what happened here in 1986 on the 26th of April? There was a planned safety inspection at the power plant at Chernobyl. And during this inspection, some of the safety measures were turned off, and this, in combination with reactor design flaws, led to led to water flushing into the system. And the water that flushed into the system caused a steam explosion that killed 1 person on impact, another one indirectly because of acute radiation poisoning. This was one of the biggest nuclear events to ever take place. This was registered as a level 7 event, of which there only 2 happened in history. The one being this event in Chernobyl, the other one being the event in Japan in 2011 with the Fukushima reactor, because of the tsunami that took place there. Okay, but to get back to Chernobyl, there was an exclusion zone that was set up for about a 10-kilometer radius around the nuclear reactor. At first, about 50,000 people were evacuated, and this exclusion zone was later increased to about 30 kilometers, which affected another 68,000 people that needed to evacuate. Later the same year, it rose to 130,000 people that needed to evacuate their homes. Up to 2000, up to the year 2000, this number rose to 350,000 people that needed to evacuate their homes. This was not necessarily needed, but this was also, of course, because of political reasons. The people lost trust in their government at that stage, and the government felt that they needed to do more to ensure the people that they're looking after them and their safety. And people being people, they are going to listen to the government. And obviously these people just left because if there was even a tiny threat in terms of nuclear radiation poisoning, people would leave, understandably so. So like I said, 350,000 people were affected in terms of leaving their homes. Pripyat turned into a ghost town overnight. You'll see, I remember when I was still an avid gamer back in the day, there used to be one of the games that actually featured the town, Chernobyl, and the setting was quite haunting. You could see the Ferris wheel standing there deserted, overgrown. The hospitals empty, apartment blocks empty, not a soul in sight. Apparently they even left food on the tables, clothing in their cupboards, even hot cups of coffee still steaming. People were in such a rush to get out that they just picked up their stuff and they left, whichever they could carry. And they got their kids and they left, which was also a problem. The evacuation was not handled correctly at that stage. They later found out the town's radiation was actually not that bad. Pripyat was, the radiation there was, I wouldn't say acceptable, but it was not that bad, because one of the roads that they used to evacuate the town was actually more contaminated than the city itself, which exposed more people to radiation. And obviously another thing that made the evacuations difficult for them was the wind, because the radiation changes direction every time the wind does. So the radiation was quite difficult for them to manage. This was also the most costly disaster of its kind to ever occur. It cost close to 18 billion rubles. I'm not sure of the exchange rate, but also keep in mind this was 33 years back. So this, I'm sure, was quite a couple of $1 billion. It involved 500,000 workers to clean up this mess, which is a massive amount of people that was involved. Basically, the whole industry evolved around this, which is astounding. When this generator went, obviously there's 4 units, active units, and the other units needs to be maintained. They cannot leave it as is and just leave. They have to maintain it, otherwise they might end up exploding or radiation leaks might occur. And because of this, they built a shield. The shield they had to build around the reactor for to basically cover the employees that's still working there. It was not intended as a radiation shield to keep it from spreading, but rather a shield for the workers that were still working and employed there to maintain the other generating units. One of these units actually kept on producing electricity up until 2000, which is unbelievable. It's a long time they kept it running. And like I said, the other 2 units were never completed. In 2019, to this day, there's still 10 of the same type of units that's still creating electricity and providing electricity to the grid, which is phenomenal. So that's 10 units like this kind that's still in operation today. There's quite a few people that passed away because of this. 134 servicemen and employees were admitted to hospitals because of ARS, acute radiation syndrome. Now, there's 28 people that passed away in the months following this in hospital because of radiation poisoning. Later on, actually up until 2011, it was 11, I think it's 11, no, it's 15. In 2011, 15 kids actually died because of thyroid cancer, which is alleged to be caused by radiation. So this is a long-term thing, and it's not going to be over overnight. It's something that's always going to have a lasting effect in history. Guys, I want you guys to also keep in mind or take note, the 27th, which was Saturday, this past Saturday, is also the 25th anniversary of the first multiracial democratic South African election. So in another 9 days from now, there's another election. Keep that in mind. If you're a foreigner, unfortunately, you cannot vote anymore. I think they finished that over this weekend. I think on the 25th, actually, to be honest. So I think that the time for you guys to vote is over. But if you're South African, keep in mind, 9 days from now, voting stations open and people can vote. Okay, guys, like you heard, I'm trying to rebrand my channel. And it's now Time Traveler's Guide. And I'm going to invite you guys to join me every time for a new video that I cover a different event in the past. And I'm going to invite you to travel back in time with me. If you guys want, subscribe, like, and spread the word. Thanks for your support, guys. Thanks for watching. Keep well, and cheers.